Good morning. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuktapata Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Sha Om Agyantamirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Nina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadha Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Ayom Tatsat, good morning. Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 4, verse number 27. Shoka Harsha Bhaya Dvesha Lobha Moha Madhanvita Mitoknantam Napashyanti Bhavair Bhavam Pratak Drishaha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: persons with the vision of differentiation are imbued with the material qualities: lamentation, jubilation, fear, envy, greed, illusion, and madness. They are influenced by the immediate cause, which they are busy counteracting, because they have no knowledge of the remote supreme cause, the personality of Godhead. Purport: Krishna is the cause of all causes, sarva karana karana. But one who has no connection with Krishna is disturbed by immediate causes and cannot restrain his vision of separation or differences. When an expert physician treats a patient, he tries to find the original cause of the disease and is not diverted by the symptoms of that original cause. Similarly, a devotee is never disturbed by reverses in life. Tate nukampam sukshamikshamanaha. 10th Canto, Chapter 14, verse 8. A devotee understands that when he is in distress, this is due to his own past misdeeds, which are now accruing reactions. Although by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, these are only very slight. Karmani nidahati kintucha bhakti bhajam. Brahma Samhita, Chapter 5, verse 54. When a devotee, under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is to suffer because of faults in his past deeds, he passes through only a little misery by the grace of the Lord. Although the disease of a devotee is due to mistakes committed sometime in the past, he agrees to suffer and tolerate such miseries, and he depends fully on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, he is never affected by material conditions of lamentation, jubilation, fear, and so on. A devotee never sees anything to be unconnected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Madhvacharya, quoting from the Bhavishya Purana, says, Bhagavad darshanan yasya virodha darshanam pratak pratak drishti savikneyo natusa bheda darshanaha. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This verse is spoken by Vasudeva in response to Kamsa's words of reconciliation for his crimes against Vasudeva and Devaki. And Vasudeva, in the spirit of giving the devil his due. You know this phrase? It's an American phrase, give the devil his due. It means he's a devil, but he had a good point. So Kamsa, he did many crimes against Devaki and Vasudeva, killing their 6 children. And he was using, not Bhagavad philosophy, he was using Sankhya philosophy, how the soul is different from the body, etc., to justify his crimes. And in the course of his words of reconciliation, he said, actually, I'm not really the killer, but rather it is the sinful activities of these children that are fructified, and I'm only the instrument. So he had a point. So in the spirit of giving the devil his due, Vasudeva is also confirming that point in this particular verse. So here he says, Shoka Harshabhaya Dvesha Lobha Moha Madhanvita. Mitognantam na pashyanti bhavair bhavam pratagdrisha. So pratagdrisha means a vision of separateness. So this is another way of describing the disease of the conditioned soul. So as we mentioned many times, in my class last week, I also quoted this verse. It's a very important verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Ishare petasha viparyo ashmritihi vayam dvitiya biniveshatasha. This is a very important verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So when the jiva is turned away from God, ishara peta, to be turned away from God means to be absorbed in a reality that is not God. So that absorption is psychological. It is not true. It is not ontological. You cannot be absorbed in something that is not God, because everything is God. It is a manifestation of his energy, so it is also God. Therefore, Krishna will say, for example, in Bhagavad Gita, of aquatics, I am the shark, of the mountains, I am the Himalaya, and so on. These are, you can call these as identity verses of the Gita, for example. Krishna is identifying himself with nature, or identifying nature with himself. This identity is not symmetrical, it is asymmetrical. In other words, the mountain is not God in his full presence or his full glory, but it is also not God. So it is not possible to be absorbed in a reality that is not God. It is not ontologically possible, but it is psychologically possible. So this psychological absorption in something that is not God is called pratagdrisha, a vision of separateness. So you think you have a separate body and you're looking out at a separate world and then pursuing separate desires. It's called pratagdrisha. It is a vision of separateness. For example, another example, if you have to walk, is it possible to walk without the ground? Can you walk without the ground? Is that possible? So in order for us to exist, there needs to be a ground of existence, right? That ground of existence is God only, and that is Krishna. He is the very ground of existence. So we cannot exist without that ground. And you're also, while you're walking, you're located on the ground only, right? It's not that sometimes you're located in the air. Of course, if you take airplane, but you get my point. So we are coming out of that ground. We are also resting on that ground, and it is into that ground we return at death. So everything is ultimately God, but we don't see it that way. Due to being turned away from God, we have lost our own soul. And the virtual reality of Maya, basically. So the way, in this verse, Dvita abhiniveshata means absorption in a second reality. So this is the same as pratagdrisha. You're absorbed in something that you think is not God. So you're absorbed in the qualities of nature or Maya, and you view it as separate from God. So the result of that vision of separateness is shoka, harsha, bhaya, dvesha, lobha, moha, mada, anvita. You become endowed with some qualities. Yeah, you want to hear the qualities you're endowed with? Shoka, lamentation, sorrow, harsha, jubilation. But this is not like the bliss, ananda. This is that fake jubilation that you see on First Avenue on Friday and Saturday night. That harsha, not the harsha of ananda, the bliss of Bhagavan realization. Bhaya, fear. You have so much fear, all of us. Dvesha, hatred, especially now in the age of social justice. A lot of hate going on. Lobha, greed. Moha, bewilderment. Madha, madness. So these are actually not qualities of the soul. These are qualities of nature. But because you're identified with nature, so then you become endowed with these qualities. You understand? And it's just, and that's how you get into the enjoyment of those qualities or suffering as such. Just like when you're watching a movie, for example, and sometimes you are watching, even though we are devotees, we know it's all right. It goes on. So when you're watching a movie, unless you attain identity with the movie or some character in the movie, you cannot enjoy the movie. You understand? You have to attain identity with it in order to experience the qualities that are being shown in the movie, right? If you don't attain identity with any of the character, then you were just looking at it, but you are not getting moved by it, right? So this is like Jivan Mukta. He sees what's going on in nature, but he's not moved by it. Krishna has told this thing in Bhagavad Gita, Ya Nisha Sarvabhutana, Tasam Jagati Samyami, Tasam Jagati Bhutani, Sanisha Pashotomu. There's a very nice verse from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, what is night for common man as a time of awakening for the self-control. And a time of awakening for common man is night for the introspective sage, right? This means that the enlightened and the unenlightened are awake and asleep to two different realities. So the unenlightened, they are awake to the external, and they are asleep to the internal, the soul and God. And the enlightened, they are awake to the internal, and they are asleep to the external. Sanisha Pashyato Mudni. He says he is sleeping to the external, but Pashyata, he sees it. He sees it. He's not like the unenlightened. They don't even see the internal because they're absorbing the qualities of nature. But he sees the external, but he is not identified with it. So he cannot be moved by it. So this person attains peace. Next verse saying like this, he attains peace. But as long as you're identified with nature, then you are moved by her qualities. Just like when you identify with a character. For me, it was growing up, it was the Chicago Bulls. I'm from Chicago, so we all grew up with Chicago Bulls when they were winning everything. We had Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, Tony Kukoc, Dennis Rodman, you know, we were like winning everything. And when the whole city would be identified with Chicago Bulls when they would play. And if they lost, we were losing in life. That's how deep the identity would go. You go to school the next day after a loss, completely morose, the whole school. It's like this deep sadness pervading the halls, you know, because we attain identity with them. But if you didn't have identity with them, you would not be moved by the loss or failure or victory of the Bulls, right? So the soul has attained identity with this nature. So he's being moved by the qualities of nature. So this is called here as being endowed with those qualities. You're being endowed with shoka, lobha. They're not the qualities of the soul. They're the qualities of the mind, and you're identified with that. So this, in the verse, Ishada Petasha Viparya Ashmiti, this is called Viparya. Viparya means like a opposite of your true nature, opposite of your soul. So because of Pritagdrisha, separate vision, and being endowed with the qualities of nature, Mitok Nantam, there is mutual killing. Someone is becoming the killer, someone is becoming the killed because of these qualities. Now you're identified with a particular story, just like sometimes you dream. And sometimes when you dream, you are killing someone. I mean, you know, we've had, who knows what our past is. That's why we pray to God for mercy. We don't know what our past is looking like. But sometimes it may come out of your chitta, out of your the subconscious. And you're killing someone in the dream, or you're running for your life in a dream. So like this, the soul is dreaming of a story. And sometimes we are the killer, and sometimes we are the killed. And this is due to our being moved by the qualities of nature. You know, you're driving in the car and someone cuts you off, and you just like, that's it. I just moved because some quality of nature came up, you identify with that, and you're forced to act. So someone is becoming the killer, and someone is becoming, now Vasudeva is saying this in relationship to his children being killed, right? He's giving them the devil his due, Kamsa. Yeah, you're right. The souls were identified with these bodies, were endowed with their qualities. So in that scenario, someone is becoming the killed and someone is becoming the killer. Napashyanti, but what they don't see, Babhayar Pavan, What they don't see are the remote causes behind this being moved by nature. So like, for example, the remote causes would be karmic inheritance. This is called daiva. Daiva for non-devotee means is karmic inheritance. And daiva for the devotee means God. These are the causes that you cannot see with your empirical senses. You cannot see what karmic reaction is that you've done, what karmic act you have done to get this particular reaction. That's why I always say the material world is just to a fault. Many people think, oh, injustice, injustice, injustice. I say, no, the material world is actually just to a fault, because you're actually getting justice for something you have done in the past, but you don't know what it is. So that is a fault, so to speak. You're getting justice, but you don't know why you're getting this particular. What have I done in the past to get it? But actually, justice is being served. Even when you're being attacked by someone or mistreated, persecuted, from the karmic perspective, justice is actually being served. But you don't know why this is coming to you. So we say it is just to a fault. So the conditioned souls, as Prabhupada is writing here in the purport, we only get absorbed in the immediate causes. We don't consider what are the remote causes causing this particular manifestation, this particular situation to fructify. We don't think about daiva, like what have I done to get this particular result? And ultimately, who is the dispenser of karma? That is God. So the living entities, they don't think that far, or they don't think what is a remote cause, and they don't think about God as the ultimate dispenser or as the cause of all causes ultimately. So then they cannot solve their problem. They become preoccupied with the immediate, and then they spend their time trying to counteract that. So Srila Narada Muni in his allegory, Puranjana allegory, fourth canto, he gave a nice image of this attempt for counteraction. He said it is like transferring a burden from this shoulder to this shoulder. Have you solved your problem? Suppose you're carrying a 30-pound pack of potatoes, and then you have to hold it for a few blocks. So your shoulder starts hurting. So you take the burden and you put it on the other shoulder. And some relief. But then again, this shoulder starts to hurt. Then you put on your head, relief. But then your head starts to hurt. Only if you throw the sack down are you relieved of the problem. Otherwise, you are not relieved of the problem, right? So similarly, unless we come to understand what is the root of our problem, our attempt for counteraction is simply shifting the burden from one position to another. Prahlad Maharaj has described this. I quoted this verse last week because I always quote this verse. It's nice. Dukosha danta api dhukam. He says their remedies for their suffering is itself suffering. I love this. This is a golden statement. Dukosha danta api dhukam. Their remedy for suffering is itself suffering. Because they're not looking at the remote causes, and they're ultimately not considering the Lord and what is his considerations in all these things. And so they're just busy with the immediate situation, fighting, removing the burden from one shoulder to the next, and augmenting their suffering. They suffer more because of this. But if you go to an expert physician, as Prabhupada's purport is saying this, he doesn't look at the immediate symptoms. He tries to find out what is the root cause. And that root cause, he tries to solve that issue. Then your disease is over, right? If you look at the root cause, so what is the root cause of the suffering of the conditioned soul? That question has to be asked. First of all, who am I? That question has to be asked. You don't even know who is the I that is suffering. I asked this question to some young men the other day at the park. Who is the referent of the pronoun I? When you say I, who is the referent? Who is it referring to? Because one kid was saying that, we're our brains. So are we the body? Are we the brain? And so there's confusion about this. So you don't even know, when you say I am suffering, you don't even know what the I is. So it's going to be a little bit difficult to solve your issue if you don't know what the I is. Further, you know what the I is now, from Vedanta, the I is the Jivatma. Having identified the I, then what is the root cause of the suffering of that I? So our acharyas clearly say the root cause of our suffering is the absence of awareness of Bhagavan. That is a root cause. And Isharapita. And the result of that is this big fun is happening. It's not really so much fun, but, maybe fun for Maya. I always have this image. Maya, she's Durga Devi. She rides on a big tiger, and she has one trident. Trident represent threefold miseries. Miseries caused by one's own body and mind, miseries caused by other living entities' bodies and minds, like mosquitoes and presidents and so on. And miseries caused by nature. That's called Daivika Krishna. So she has a trident, and all the jivas are, underneath the paw of the tiger, but they're trying to enjoy. And I always have this image of Durga Devi just, yeah, he thought she was going to enjoy, didn't she? She was like, ah! You're not going to enjoy. No one is enjoying. Vedyam Vasava Matravastu Shivadam Tapatraya Umulanam. Tapatraya Umulanam, the uprooting of the Tapatraya, the threefold miseries we just mentioned. That is only possible if you know the Vastu. Vedyam Vasavam Atra Vastu Shivadam, the Vasava Vastu, the truly abiding entity, that is God. Then you will have Shivadam. Shivadam means it gives auspiciousness, bliss. And then Tapatraya Umulanam, complete uprooting of the threefold miseries. That is only possible if the soul comes to know the absolute reality, God. So you find out who is the I and what is the root cause of the I. So we say like this, Gaudiya Vaishnava. So really, the root cause is the absence of awareness of that absolute reality, and specifically Bhagavan, Krishna, specifically Krishna. We don't know Krishna. This is our problem. So how to solve that root problem? By giving Krishna consciousness. That's their solution. If you have Krishna consciousness, then you will not be moved by the qualities of nature, because you will see this is also God manifesting this particular feature for his devotee. So many examples in Srimad Bhagavatam. Very nice one. Parikshit Maharaj, he was cursed to die in 7 days for a slight discrepancy. And the boy died in 7 days. Can you imagine? You had like a slight discrepancy and someone said, die in 7 days. You would not be peaceful. It'd be very hard to be peaceful. When he came to the sages to report his own consciousness, he said that God has kindly come to me in the form of a cursed Brahmin boy in order to break my attachment to material qualities and that way become absorbed in him. So he saw it only as Bhagavan's mercy manifesting. The same Bhagavan that protected me in the womb of my mother. So what is the difficulty for him to protect me? He protected me in the womb of my mother. Uttara was attacked by the Brahmastra weapon of Ashwatthama. Krishna appeared before him and got rid of the Brahmastra weapon. Parikshit Maharaj saw that Krishna. And then when he saw that Krishna, when he came out of the womb, he was always looking for that Krishna. That's why his name is Parikshit. Parikshit means to examine. Are you that person I saw? Are you that person I saw? Are you that person? He was always looking for Krishna. That's why he's called Parikshit. Parikshit Maharaj. That same Krishna that protected me in the womb has now allowed this curse to come. He could protect me from the curse also. But he is not protecting me from the curse. That means it must be his will only that I be cursed in this way. So why I should protest? Rather, the Lord has kindly come to me in the form of a curse of a Brahmin boy, and let me go to the bank of the Ganga and surrender to his will. And as a result of his surrender, he, along with Shukadev Goswami, in a sense, they midwife the appearance of Bhagavatam in this world in the feature that we have it now. Otherwise, that would not have been possible. So great glory was there because he accepted the will of the Lord. Prabhupada is quoting this verse, Tatenu kampam sukshamikshamanu, bunjana evatma kritam vipakam, tevav vapubir vidadan namaste, jiveta yos muktipade sadayava. The famous verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this particular verse, the devotee is eagerly awaiting the mercy of the Lord, tate anu kampam sukshamikshamanu. And while eagerly awaiting the mercy of the Lord, bunjana evatma kritam vipakam. Whatever is happening in my life, he sees it as a result of my own mistakes. That's what the verse is saying. He sees it as a result of my own mistakes. And as Prabhupada writes here, actually, the reaction should be heavier. But because I'm surrendered to God and whatever little bit surrender, I've been protected. Krishna is giving a little bit, not a lot, little bit he's giving. When I first joined ashram, this is 2000, and I joined ashram in 2003. And my first seva was helping one devotee do fruit kata. So in the Hare Krishna movement, most reactions manifest in the kitchen. Most of them. A lot of the purification that happens in the kitchen. So just be warned ahead of time. When you go in the kitchen, purification will certainly take place. I saw so many things take down and happen in the kitchen. One devotee almost lost his whole hand. I've seen many things. So I'm sitting helping devotee cut the fruits in the kitchen. And I like cut my finger somehow or other a little bit. It wasn't too heavy, but I cut it. And I was like, I'm maybe 2 months, not even 2 months, had joined. Cut my finger, and then the devotee who was training me and with whom I was cutting the fruits, he said, you were supposed to lose the whole finger. So I said, is this something to tell to someone? I was so mad, I'm like looking for like sympathy and like a little, he said, you're supposed to lose the whole finger. But because you're engaged in devotional service, Krishna only gave you a little bit. I was mad. I said, this is not something you tell someone. But that is our philosophy. Actually, Krishna only giving a little bit. Actually, you're supposed to be happy, but he only gave a little bit. So devotees, they think in this way. Actually, whatever is coming to me, that is coming from my Lord only. So therefore, they're not absorbed their identity with the qualities of nature. They're absorbed their identity with their Lord, who is manifesting in these multifarious ways to show affection for his devotee. Actually, we can expand on this point unlimitedly, but I like to leave a lot of time for questions. So in this way, the root cause of the soul is a lack of awareness of God. So the root solution is giving them awareness of Bhagavan. Then all problems will be solved automatically, so to speak. Your nature, your relationship with nature changes dramatically on account of that awareness of Bhagavan. And instead of seeing yourself as the victim of injustice or unfairness or of nature's devastating qualities, you see yourself as a recipient of grace at every step. As a result of seeing yourself as a recipient of grace, you experience joy. Joy, wherever you go, you experience. I don't have my phone. There's a very nice verse describing in the Bhakta in the 11th canto, chapter 14. It's verse number 13, I think. You can look it up. So this verse is describing the devotee as a kinchanasya dhantasha. I haven't quoted this verse in a long time. He's a kinchana, he's without the material possessions, or he's not attached to material things. He's sense control, he's peaceful. Samachetasa, he has equal vision. Then the third line. Maya santushta manasa. Maya santushta manasa. His mind is always finding satisfaction in me. Maya santushta manasa, and therefore Sarva Sukha Mayadisha. Sarva Sukha Mayadisha. In all the directions he sees happiness only. In all the directions, everywhere he sees happiness. So instead of seeing yourself as a victim of nature, you see yourself as a recipient of grace. Sarva Sukha Mayadisha. In all directions, you experience happiness. So this very high consciousness, on the one hand, actually is like basic consciousness on the other hand. Gaudiya Vaishnava reach is a lot deeper than this, but you can't get that without coming to this point. You can't be in odds with nature and also be deeply Krishna conscious. You understand? That's not possible. So although there's sometimes some propaganda like this, that you cannot think in terms of friends and enemy and also be Krishna conscious. Those do not reside in the same locus. That's not possible. So this, although this is high, it is also kind of basic in order to experience the height of Krishna consciousness, like emotions in terms of Krishna Bhakti Rasa. You have to come to this stage that there are actually no friends and enemies. That is an illusion created by Maya. Only then you can experience high level Krishna consciousness. So Vasudeva is given this point that the soul is absorbed in separateness, endowed with the qualities of nature. Therefore, someone is thinking I'm killer, someone's thinking I'm killed, but they don't see God. And this is their root problem, and this is their root suffering. So the root solution is to give people this opportunity to become aware of Bhagavan and allow them to experience a different relationship with nature and with everything that is happening in nature, including what appears to be ugly to us. Haridas Thakur, he was mistreated, persecuted. He had no animosities towards his persecutors. How is possible? Prahlad Maharaj is also persecuted by his father. Actually, most of the devotees in the Shastra, they get a lot of persecution. And without animosity, they look at their persecutors and even wish them well. Aho Ananta Das. There's another verse, 9th canto, chapter. I think it's chapter 5, verse number 14. Aho Ananta Dasanam. See, this is the result of old age. I'm losing all my verses I used to know. Aho Ananta. This is at the. Is it Aho Ananta Dasanam?
It's 9:5:19.
That's the verse.
No, it's so.
Which verse you're looking at?
9:5:19.
No, 14. 14. Look, 14.
Yeah, Aho Ananta.
Yeah, Aho Ananta Dasanam. What is the rest of the verse?
Aho Ananta Dasana Mahatvam Drishtam.
Mahatam Drishtam Adyame. Today I have seen the greatness of the devotees of the Lord. This is coming from Devras Muni. So Devras Muni, he got issues a little bit emotional. He ashutosh. He easily satisfied, easily angered. So he felt a little disrespected by the Ambarish Maharaj. He pulled off his sika and made a fire apparition to kill Ambarish Maharaj. But Ambarish Maharaj didn't protest that also. But Krishna had a little protest. So the chakra king killed the fire apparition, started chasing the Rasmuni. You ever wonder how the chakra didn't catch him? The chakra was just getting close enough for him to feel the heat. But he allowed him to take darshan finally of Bhagavan Narayana. Then Narayana speaks about his attachments to devotees. And then he said, you have to go to Ambarish Maharaj to seek forgiveness. That's the only way you can be saved from chakra. Otherwise, I'm also not independent. You would really mean that? This is your chakra only. Hey, I can't do anything about it. Aham bhakta paradena. Yasantatra ibaduja. I am not independent. I am completely controlled by my devotees. I can't do anything. So you have to if you fall on the floor, you have to take shelter of the same floor to get up, isn't it? So you committed offense to Ambarish Maharaj, so that Ambarish Maharaj you have to go to. So Ambarish immediately prayed and released him from the chakra and had no animosity towards Devras Muni. So then Devras Muni speaks of Aho Ananta Dasa. Today I have seen the greatness of the devotees of the Lord. Then the third line.
Kritagasopi Yadrajan.
Kritagasi.
Kritagasopi
Yadrajan. Yadrajan. He said, even though I've committed an offense, that's a little bit light way of saying it. You just tried to murder. Okay, you want to call it as an offense. It's a little bit softer. Even though you tried to murder Rishma, like we all saw you. You did it completely in the open for everyone to see. Even though I tried to murder Ambarish Maharaj last night.
Mangalani Samihase.
Mangalani Samihase. He is prayed for my auspiciousness. How this is possible? So this is 9th canto verse. I always like to say it sometimes like this. In order to come to 10th canto consciousness, you got to go to the 9th canto. You got to go to the 7th canto, giving up friends and enemies. Otherwise, not possible. And Vasudeva, of course, is himself demonstrating this consciousness in his statement too. Kanksa. So I'll stop there because all these parts could be expanded unlimitedly, but some time for interaction. And one question is there. Anyone wants to ask one question, comment?
Yeah.
Yes.
One question I have is,
There's a question here in the audience. I will repeat it.
Everything, from Krishna, so then it means nobody should ever be punished for what they do, because, it's all from Krishna.
That is the consciousness of the devotee. So he's saying, if everything's coming from Krishna, no one should be punished for what he's doing. No. You're being punished according to your karmic inheritance. Doesn't mean you have to be the dispenser of punishment. No, God can take care. Why you have to do? So sometimes if you're a position, like if you're a king, so the king is considered the representative of God. So he has duty to give punishment and reward in service to Bhagavan. In service to Krishna, he can do that because that's his duty in that particular social position. He's called as a representative of God. But we represent ourselves most of the time. At least our consciousness is like that. So why now you want to be the dispenser of justice? And the result of dispensing justice, you're making bigger chasm. Just like now in the world of social justice, the world does not become a better place. Only the chasms are becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. As they think, I will be the dispenser, then we start big movement and we'll dispense justice. But even if justice is getting served also, the peace is not coming. The result of the justice being served is not peace and happiness. The result is the chasms are getting bigger and things are becoming more dangerous for everyone. So Krishna has already a system for administering punishment. It's called karma. And he's also gave a social system for people who represent his order in this world. But the conditioned jivas in Kali Yuga, we're not agreeable to that. So now the fun's about to begin. You don't want to agree? That's what, Chamasa Muni, Chamasa, and one of the Navayogindras. He says when the living entities turn, he says the social system comes from God. The Brahmanas from his head, the Kshatriyas from his arms, etc. They come. And he says if they ignore this God, Avajananti Nabhajanti. Yeah, not Avajananti. I'm forgetting the verse. If they ignore this God, either because of ignorance, they just don't know, or because of contempt, what is this God? Then he says, their society will go to hell. Their society will fall from grace. So this verse also quoted by Srila Rupa Goswami Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, saying that everyone has to do minimum Vaidhi Bhakti, religion. Vaidhi Bhakti means the devotion that is ordained by vidhi, by rule. At least that they have to do, but they're not agreeable to that now. They don't want to follow God, the laws of God in any scripture. They want to act according to their own desires. So the result is Kali Yuga is what it is. But we don't have to be the dispenser of punishment. God is fully competent. He could dispense punishment without even thinking about it. Because Maya already got it. Yeah. Durga Devi with her trident, she already gave you nice punishment. Okay, anyone wants to make some other comment or question? It's 7:52. Oh, let's see here, this chat box. Okay, no, nothing in the chat box, I think. Okay, Krishna Daya Das.
Yeah, yes, bro. Thank you for the wonderful class. So, in the answer to the previous question, you were telling that Krishna has created this karma, so this particular system, so that is also created by God himself, like whoever is doing wrong. So it's not the root cause is, the Lord, like we ourselves have to, reap the reactions. So now the thing is like when something good is happening, like we give the entire credit to the Lord. And then when something bad is happening, so then devotees take on themselves. So that I'm a little bit not clear. Of course, that's the mood of devotees, something one. But in actuality, if something good is happening, like even in devotional service also, if there is some progress, will that will some credit does not go to the devotee, or all the credit goes to the Lord? So yes.
When something good happens, we give credit to the Lord. And when something bad happens, we take it on ourselves. Huh? He said most, or Sharana said most of the time is the other way. When something bad happens, we blame the Lord. And when something good happens, it's my prowess. So that is the conditioned jivas. They think like this. When something good is gone, I've done it. What is that verse? Pakritihi kriyamanani aham karabimudhatma kartahamiti manyate. This verse. I have done it. They think like that. And when something bad has happened, there is no God. They jump immediately to that. But devotee, opposite. This is the meaning of being a devotee. All right. What is this verse? It's quoted that there are only two types of entities in this world: the demon and the devotee. And the devotee is completely devoted to God, and the demon is just the opposite. So however the demons are, the devotees are opposite. A very nice example of this is in 8th canto, when they're turning the milk ocean, so they get Vasuki. Vasuki is like snake, and they were going to use him as the rope for the churning rod. So Krishna, knowing that the demons think opposite of devotees, he grabbed the face of Vasuki first, which breathes fire. And the demon said, why you grabbed the face? Because the face is more auspicious, and you're taking the side of the devatas. But Krishna already knew how the demons think. He said, all right, you can take the face on me. So then when they were churning, Vasuki was breathing out the fire, and all the demons were getting hit heavy with the fire. So this means demons and devotees think opposite way. So just as the demons or those who are asura bhavam, they have that nature like this because of ignorance. They will say, when something good happens, they take credit. When something bad happens, they blame God. So the devotees are just the opposite. When something happens wonderful, that is grace only. And because God is absolute good, it can be nothing but grace. If there's any discrepancy, there must be some discrepancy on my part. It is not God only, he is absolute good. How can he give any mistreatment to his devotee? Therefore, the devotee will think like this: whatever is happening must be some discrepancy on my part. That is the humility of the devotee. His humility surges up. And that is also a victory for the devotee, because bhakti is the Swarup Shakti of Krishna that attains even higher exaltation in combination with the humility of the bhakta. Nice example was given by Srila Jiva Goswami. He says the jiva is like the flute. You know flute. The jiva is like the flute. And when the flute player is breathing, just when his regular breath, that is not very appealing to the flute player. But that same breath, when passing through the flute, is very appealing, isn't it? He can listen to his breath, so to speak, pass through that flute for hours and hours and hours. So the jiva is also like the flute, and love of God is, we say like this, love of God. It is of Bhagavan. And when it comes to the jiva and passes through the jiva and back to the Lord, then it causes the Lord to become attached to his devotee. So that becomes a double victory for the devotee. Not only does he take the discrepancy as his own, but because of his humility, that causes the bhakti to go even more exalted. And with the exaltation of bhakti, more bliss is also there. Not only for the devotee, but also for Bhagavan. So in this way, the devotee's humility is his glory, actually. He becomes glory. So in this way, thinking of the devotee is like this. The devotee will never think I am the doer. It's actually not possible to do bhakti, because bhakti is in a higher category than the jiva. And how you can do, just like the body cannot move without the presence of the soul. And this object, the computer that I'm using, cannot establish a relationship with me because it's unconscious. So in relationship to that higher reality, we are like unconscious objects. So we're gonna actually do bhakti. This is the meaning of the verse, Atashi Krishna Namadi, Nambabet Graham Indriyai. You know this verse? That the tongue and senses, they're not able to capture bhakti. Atashi Krishna Namadi, the name of Krishna, etc. Nambabet Graham Indriyai, the senses are not able to grab them. Because we stand as unconscious objects in relationship to that reality. But when we, what is the next line? Seva Muke, Ijihado, but by Seva Mukha, by turning towards Bhagavan in the mood of Seva, then Bhakti agrees to lift us up. And then we can, last line, Spurti, you can get a Spurti that you can then establish a relationship with Bhagavan. So this is the trick of this is the cleverness of devotion. There's one nice verse. Sri Vishnu says this is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, chapter 29. Oh, I don't remember the verse number 34, maybe. But anyway, the verse says, "This is the intelligence of the intelligence and the cleverness of the clever, that they use the mortal body to attain the immortal. With this dead body, they use that to get the life, the immortal realm." So in this way, the devotee is very clever. You understand? The humility is also a cleverness in this sense. Intelligence and it is cleverness. So there is no problem here. Let the Lord have all the grace and let the discrepancy be my own. And with that intelligence, the bhakti will come exalted, you'll experience bliss. Devotees are so smart. The demons take it as a weakness while they're suffering. And the devotees are blissed out, eating prasadam, chanting and dancing because of their humility. So who is more intelligent? Okay, I have to go now because darshan is about to take place. Thank you all for tolerating me. This class, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Jai Jagannath Prabhu. Beautiful. Hare Krishna. Jai Dar. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Krishna Das, Saki Kuchan, Rameshwar Naik, Bhima Prabhu, Gitanjali's phone, Cindy, Yogeshwari, Kartik, Suzanne, Dana Das, Venetia, Angelica, Preeti Chaturvedi, Hemangi, Sharita, Jason, Gail, Anand Singh. Thank you very much. Good seeing you all. Love you all. Haribol. Have a wonderful day. Happy Monday, as they say on Facebook. Hare Krishna. Henry Prabhu. Haribol.